Hello. Hi, Anna.
Welcome. I'm really happy to have you. We are now connecting through two different continents, and it's very cool to have you with me here on this podcast. So, how have you been feeling?
I'm still on vacation, so feeling pretty good. I'm in the mountains of Vermont, so pretty relaxful, but a lot colder than I thought for August. That's my only problem with where I am right now. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. I'm good. Working on some cool stuff. It's really interesting just how talking to more people right now really helped me get amazing ideas in place. We start this whole thing, as always, with the question the first day of immigration. But with you, it is a slightly different story because your family was actually the ones who moved to a new country. And you have a very beautiful life story of you being the supporter and helper of now other immigrants and the first generation immigrants as well. So, can you tell us about the first day or the first week of immigration for your family, for the
Mhm.
whole unit?
Absolutely. So, both of my parents actually didn't know each other, but they were both political refugees who kind of ran away from Poland during the communist regime to Italy. And that's where they sort of sought some more freedom. And that's where they met. So they didn't know each other in Poland. They met in Italy and fell in love, or so they say. It was really interesting because they got married in Italy. However, they filed for visas separately. So when my mom got pregnant, Italy said goodbye, send you off to America because they don't want to be responsible for this other baby now. So my mom actually came to America alone. So she actually gave birth to me alone, not knowing the language in New York by herself. And my dad was in Italy for many more years before he could get a visa. My first days were already in New York, in Manhattan specifically. I personally can't imagine doing that. Going to a different country and giving birth alone without your partner. That was really the first experience, I think. I mean, I don't remember it, but it definitely is a part of my story.
It's very cool because then you started your life in immigration as an immigrant as well. And you had to figure out many things for yourself, which were kind of part of your life, right? We get to know the world, we start walking, we start talking, but you also had unconsciously to figure out yourself as well in this world as this new person to the country as well. So, how did you see yourself maybe different, or
Mhm.
what were the things that you didn't think were weird or different in your life related to this experience? Because I know of people who, let's say, they have children and then they move, and then children have to adapt to the new reality. They might have had the friends from before if they're a bit older, or maybe when they're younger they switch momentarily. But how has it been for you as your whole life began as the immigration journey for your parents?
Yeah, so I think because I was in Brooklyn, it was different than maybe other people who moved to different countries or different parts of America because in Brooklyn, a lot of people were immigrants. A lot of people spoke a second language, and a lot of people were very different cultures. So I think I felt very normal. It felt very normal. I'm Polish. I speak Polish in my family. I have Polish food. So it was never like weird or different. However, what was weird or different is at one point my grandfather came to America to help my mom, and I actually thought that a family unit was a baby, a mom, and a grandpa. I didn't realize that a family unit was a mom and a dad and a baby. So I was shocked, actually. I thought every baby had a grandpa. So that was what was weird about me. It wasn't so much the cultural, the language, or the immigrant status because my whole community was immigrants. But my father wasn't in America because he couldn't get a visa yet. So I had my grandpa and I thought that was normal. And then I later learned no.
Your mom didn't go back either, right? She didn't see your father for years either, or
So
how was that?
we were able to go to Italy, and I have photos of myself as a baby in Rome, which is where they met and where my dad lived, and where my soul is from because I was conceived in Rome. So I like to think that I'm Roman in a way. So we did go back, but I was a tiny baby. We definitely went back to visit him. And I know back in the day, he would call my mom a lot. But it's definitely strange to have your first child and not be next to that first child for years, you know? My connection with my father could have been better if he was with me. For example, when he came to America and they made my sister,
Hmm.
I could tell his connection with my sister was much better because he saw her as a baby every day. It wasn't like, who is this little creature that's mine? Where did she come from? Do you know what I mean? Him being away definitely
Yeah.
wasn't the greatest way to start fatherhood for him.
I'm sorry that's how it happened. The connection between the daughter and father is very important. And, when I moved away from my home and I was 21, I was alone, and there were many things that I had to figure out for myself. And there was this connection between my father and me that I realized was there, but not like in the optimal way, because he was there maybe physically, but he has always been a very emotionally distant person, not very much in tune with his emotions and the ways he was expressing himself. And it took me at that point 2 years of therapy and doing the work for me to even ask him the questions of, you know, did you really love me? Did you care for me? So I can relate to the father being a bit not there, and I know how
Mhm.
it can play a role in our ambition, I suppose. The girl trying to compensate for the father not being there, and maybe also being a bit more masculine to just kind of get the dad's
100%.
attention. It's not maybe even related so much to immigration, more to certain realities that we have as young women right now. That might not be my only experience, because I actually met other people with that. And it's an interesting conversation.
Mhm.
So I wanted to ask you then how you got into working with immigrant women right now, and what brought you there, because yes, it is the reality of your life. This is where you grew up. This is how it made sense for you to venture into that field. But still, you could have chosen so many other things, or maybe you did. So, how did you end up working with immigrants?
So, no, I never thought I would be a career coach. I never thought I would be working with immigrant women. It sort of just happened because of my own career struggles. I grew up the typical perfect student, perfect grades, working hard, put your head down, just do the work. Kind of like what you said, a lot of that masculine energy, a lot of that compensating, trying to be good enough. So I did that for many years. And then I started my career in market research and it was going okay. But then I got stuck. I got stuck being this workhorse. So the workhorse does not become the manager. The workhorse does all the work and is managed. I found instead of getting a new title, getting more money, all I got was more work, more work, more work. I was like dying under this pressure of this work. But that's the problem with us immigrant women. We keep doing it. So we're not going to just pause and stop and say, hey, this is too much. We keep saying yes and we keep going, even if it's killing us. It was killing my physical health. It was killing my mental health. It was killing my confidence because I was thinking, wow, I really am not smart enough to get promoted. I really am not good enough. As an immigrant, we don't know certain things. We don't know how to play politics. We don't know how to self promote. We don't know how to advocate for ourselves. We don't know how to build those relationships that we need to go up because we believe our work should speak for itself, but that is a trap. And I was in that trap for many years. I finally got myself out of that trap. And then crazily, within just 1 year, I got promoted several times, doubled my salary, made it to the top of the head of the office. So I went from struggling really bad to being the head of the office in New York. That was great. And I was like, yay. But then I was like, Okay, I looked down from my little queen throne at work and I was like, wow, other women are struggling too. I was under the impression that I struggled because I was flawed. I wasn't good enough and I was ashamed. But then I realized no, so many other women are struggling because they just don't know. They just don't have the right role models. Maybe they have immigrant parents too, or they came from a different culture. They just don't know how to be successful in the corporate world in America. It's a very specific skill. There's doing your work very well, and then there's advancing your career. It's two separate skills. It's not the same. So that's how I realized through the pandemic and just thinking, what is my legacy and what do I actually want to do from my heart now that my wallet was doing good and I didn't have to worry about survival? What do I want to do now? I never thought I would be a coach, but when I started, really reflecting, there was no other path for me. There was other paths, but this path helping women was the one that was most fascinating to me. And that's been almost 3 years ago now. The fascination has not left. This is what I'm going to be doing, at least for now.
You're right. What you said about that we don't know how to do this, how to separate these two things, because it could be, how it was in the past, and we come with our baggage and some things that maybe worked again in the previous context that we're coming from. But indeed, it is kind of waking up to the world which is bigger than us, with all different rules, new reality. It's not only that you're coming to a new country and things there are in a different language, it's different food, it's different culture. It's also politics or these games, they're all different too. And many of us, we have absolutely no idea that this is even a thing, that it even exists, right? I, for myself as well, for years, a great success would have been just to get the job. Just getting the job has been such a struggle. I'm not thinking past, promotions. I'm not thinking about the money. I'm not thinking about all these things. I just want to survive. I need to survive. So we don't even think about what we will need, because what we think we achieve by getting that job and maybe be getting a bit more stable there and being able to pay the rent in a good neighborhood, buy some foods that we love once in a while. For many people, it's really like that. It starts with that. We don't even know the game is there, let alone know how to play that. So I totally recognize this, because it took me, well, at least probably 5 years to even start thinking that I could have a career. And then that I can create that career, that I can, it's like every time it's a whole different level. Every time you kind of go get to a new floor, like next floor, and then you see the bigger picture. It's very cool that you saw that too, and that you help people, and women especially, to climb that ladder, not in the corporate sense of the word, but more like the panorama sense of the world, maybe.
And I love that you said that because that was my experience too, right? Once I figured out the career, then I created my new career as a coach. And I see that with a lot of my clients. We start off with the career, and once they get the rules there and they find success there, and with that, more freedom, more flexibility, more finances, then they start thinking, what else can I do? What can I do for myself? How can I dream bigger? So it's exactly that. And I think that's very immigrant. We don't just settle, we're always looking for that next level. So I find that really fascinating about us. We're this breed of people who just are always seeking what's next. And I love that. That's why I love working with my immigrant women, because they're always evolving, always growing, and always willing to do the work. They don't want to settle. They don't want to just chill. And yes, sometimes there's extremes. We don't want
Yeah.
to be too like workaholic either and too perfectionistic, but that passion, determination, and seeking your potential, I think is very beautiful for immigrants.
Yes, totally. So, what is it then? It's not a hard skill, because then you would keep doing what you're doing, right? You'd be the working horse. What is it then that you notice that is probably the biggest problem that women like us in this situation have, and what kind of things they can work on?
Mm-hmm. So I would say the biggest thing is being the workhorse. Most women that are immigrants, when they come to me and I kind of get an understanding of what they're doing, why do they feel like they're working so much? Why are they so tired? Why are they so burnt out? We find that they're doing way too much. They're doing too many roles. They're going above and beyond. They're working for three people instead of one. There's a saying in Polish that says, work burns through your hands. I find a lot of immigrant women, work burns through our hands. Everything we touch, we do it fast, we do it well. We kind of go and just get it done, right? So I find that that workhorse syndrome is the first thing I have to cure. I have to cure, and let me tell you, it's really, really hard to get women to let go because they do it from survival and they feel safe. They feel in control, even though they feel out of control, if that makes sense. They feel out of control, but working
Yeah,
really
yeah,
hard gives
totally.
them a sense of control. So actually working on that is number one, because I cannot teach you those soft skills that you mentioned if you're so busy and overwhelmed with getting the work done. My simple strategy is work on your career for 10%. So if you work 40 hours, you have to dedicate 4 hours per week to building your career. And that is part of your job. And I have to convince women that I promise this is part of your job. You're supposed to be networking. You're supposed to be nurturing relationships. You're supposed to be talking about your work, not just doing your work. So those are the kind of things that we work on. We work on leaning back on the work, and we work on doing scary things like talking about yourself so that you can start to get noticed, so that you can get to that next level. I'm not saying it's easy, but I love it when women go through that difficult journey and then they turn to me and they're like, Anna, I can't believe I was working so much. No wonder I was exhausted. No wonder there was no joy in my life. No wonder I wanted to quit. And now they're like, I do so much less, but everyone loves my work. Everyone is happy with me. And they're shocked because they're doing less, but getting more recognition. And I'm like, yes, I know it doesn't make sense in our minds, but this is how it works. This is how it works.
I can relate to that so much. Maybe you were similar or you know people as well like that. Very active child, all the different hobbies and courses and things like that. And once you do that, you can't stop. You finish one thing, you think about the next thing, you want to do more all the time. And this is how it translates into our work life. For me, at least, this comes from post-Soviet countries. This is always how it has been. It's like very cultural thing. When you're done the task, then only you can do some leisurely stuff. And even the rest needs to be productive. You're reading something, or if you're watching the TV, it needs to be motivated. Like, why are you doing that? I'm still in it thinking that I need to be productive in my rest as well. I need to make it count. And I know that it counts like this from many people. I read and listen to other people from post Soviet countries who immigrate and who talk about this topic as well. It's a very common thing, apparently. The paradigm shift, all these things that you need to understand so then you can go to the next level. It's not into doing, it's not there. Stop doing things as well so you can see clearly. And with people who are not from post-Soviet countries, the people that are your clients that work with you who still have the same problem, is it also cultural in their countries, or is it something else that you think that could be dictating this kind of behavior?
First of all, I can so relate to what you said and the childhood activities, ballet, gymnastics, piano, blah, 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 blah. I can relate. I would say for people who don't come from post Soviet countries that I work with, I think it's strict cultures, cultures where there's very high expectations. And a lot of immigrant cultures, especially where I'm in America, a lot of the people that come here do have that perfectionism. And also, what I find is these children, like me, that are children of immigrants, mistakes and failure are not allowed. We cannot fail because we don't have a backup. We don't have a safety net. We don't have a plan B. There's only plan A. And plan A, like you said, is school, music, art, science, math, everything is included in plan A. So I think it just comes from pressure. I love what you said about that structure in childhood because when I realized I was a workhorse, I realized no one was pressuring me. I was pressuring me. Me, I was like, do more, do better, do it faster. Not my boss never said that. My CEO never said that. It was me kind of beating me as that horse. We continue that cycle that you described from childhood. We continue it.
You were doing the job of reminding yourself that you always need to work, and then the CEO, they don't need to tell you this because you already know it. You already will be the person who will punish herself first for the things that you don't do. The saddest thing is that there will be maybe one boss who understand that it will tell you to slow down, and there will be many more who will use that. You don't get promoted, you don't get a bigger paycheck, you just conveniently keep pushing for many people in the company.
That's part of why I also wanted to become
Tell me.
a coach, is because I thought it was so unfair. Because exactly what you said, no one tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, Anna, you're doing too much, slow down." Nobody. And then I looked around, and honestly, a lot of the most hardworking people were immigrants. And I was like, this is not fair. Because, like you said, they benefit from that. And I'm all for hard work, obviously. But when I see people suffering and not getting paid fairly, that's when I have a problem. That's when I step in.
Do you have some quick check-in exercise that people can use right now to understand? Am I a workhorse?
Mm-hmm. So you're probably a workhorse if you have a crazy to-do list. And instead of taking things off your to-do list, you're always adding to your to-do list. You're probably a workhorse if you finish the day and you always feel like you didn't do enough. You're probably a workhorse if it's after work and you're sitting there thinking about work and worrying about work. You're probably a workhorse if you can't sleep at night because you're thinking about work. You're probably a workhorse when the weekend comes and you are so tired, all you can do is sit on your couch and maybe watch TV. You're probably a workhorse if you've forgotten what brings you joy and someone asks, "What do you want to do? What brings you happiness? What makes you have fun?" And you don't know the answer anymore because you don't allow yourself to do that. And you're definitely a workhorse if you feel guilty for resting. And I see this with my clients all the time. Even if they rest finally, they feel guilty, which is what you were explaining too, productive rest. But if it's not productive rest, we feel bad. So, yes, those are some top signs that you are probably a workhorse like I was.
Yeah, me too. I have recognized all of those in me, and some of them are still with me. But at least I know all of them. I can name them. This is you. This is you. And I think it's a good next step that we do. We recognize and we start catching ourselves. This is where this kind of script comes back again, and I don't like it. I can work on it. So they can then contact you and start working with you. The lesson that I heard is stand up for yourself, recognize that you are valuable, even if you don't work as hard, especially if you don't work as hard, maybe, and start working on your career if you want to have those better opportunities. Because there is a reason why we moved to a different country. We want to have a better life. We want to create something for ourselves, or like your family did for you, right? They did a lot of things with that image in mind that you are a newborn baby and you deserve all the different opportunities that they create. So then you can be someone like you are right now, the successful, beautiful, charismatic, with so many things they can offer to the world. I hope, I probably know that they are very proud of you. And if I ever have kids, this is what I'm building for them. I'm building something I have to figure out a lot of things, and I'm doing it, yes, for myself, but also for them too, or for my family. So they have more options. Would there be something else that you would like to add to this specific lesson?
Anna, first of all, thank you for your compliments. And I think you summarized it perfectly. What I would add, however, is I'm going to go back to something you said about specifically post Soviet countries and that masculine energy of doing, achieving, accomplishing,
Mhm.
conquering, structure, discipline, right? So, my only advice to listeners and viewers would be trust that you have those masculine structure in place. You will always be a hardworking person. You will always deliver at a very high level. But how can you balance that with more feminine energy? Feminine energy is more about creativity, more about going with the flow and not controlling. Feminine energy also is more expressive, right? So instead of just doing, feminine energy expresses and wants to shine. And one final thing for feminine is more self compassion, right? Where the masculine is not very emotional. It's just do, get it done. I don't care how, just get it done. The feminine introduces more self compassion. And I know it sounds counterintuitive, but I actually would urge you to explore this because you can be more successful, happier, healthier if you have more of this feminine energy for yourself. You have the masculine, I promise. It's not leaving. But if you introduce more of these feminine energies, I promise you will feel more joy and you will actually be more magnetic. You will be more charismatic. You will get better opportunities. People will notice you. People will want to give you better opportunities and they're going to want to pay you. The feminine gets paid, okay?
I also know that you're very much in love with Barbie movie, as am I. And I think you're right. This is a topic that has been coming back to me, and I've been working on actively for myself for the past couple of years for sure. And you're right. I realized, even though I have always identified as a woman, I have been feeling more feminine in general, but my energy and even the output, the ways I do things, have always been masculine. A lot of my work has been done through this masculine energy, right? Those 10 or 20, at most 30% of my feminine energy, I felt not sure about, scared. It was unknown to me. It was very mysterious, but not like nice, mysterious way. It was not something I trusted. So I started to work on it, and I feel more in tune with it right now. And you're right, things have been happening. I cannot really put my finger on them, but something has changed for sure.
And Anastasia, let me tell you why women like us, we don't trust feminine energy. That's because, especially as immigrants, we are in survival. And for survival, you need the masculine to feel safe. It absolutely makes sense that the feminine is scary because the feminine is free. The feminine can be chaos. The feminine is unpredictable. The feminine is not measurable. The impact, right? Work, the masculine, you could say, I created 10 books, I worked for 10 hours. But the feminine, like you said, you cannot really measure it. So, yes, I love that you've had these great experiences and that you intuitively knew and you felt safe enough to explore the feminine energy. And that's what I wish for a lot of other, especially immigrant women, to also explore. We promise, Anna and I promise, it is beautiful, it is safe, and you will actually create more and be better because we need both.
Hmm. Yes, totally. Wow, I was not ready. I was not expecting this topic in this chat, but thank you so much for bringing it up because I totally agree with you. It's is something that we need, the world needs, we need as individuals, but also the communities, the people around us, our families, and the world. Yes, needs that too. Probably our second lesson that we can extract. I love it. Absolutely love it. I'm processing it still. Wonderful. I wanted to thank you for the time and for your expertise and for your experience. It's really cool to have these opportunities to connect with people from all over the globe and talk about our experiences like that. Where people can find you is the website, is your LinkedIn? How do you prefer to work? How do you prefer to be reached out to?
So, Anna, first I will say it was such a pleasure to chat with you. And I feel like what you're doing with these conversations is very feminine. It's about connection, it's about storytelling, it's about learning. I feel like even though it's virtual, there's a campfire and we're sitting on this campfire and we're talking and we're connecting. So, thank you for this beautiful privilege and opportunity. And in terms of anyone finding me, thankfully, as an immigrant, I have a unique name. So if you look for Anna Lakomy, Lakomy on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, you'll probably only find me, Anna Lakomy. So that's the benefit of having an immigrant name. There's probably only one.
Yes, that is true. That is actually true. It hasn't been always that I enjoyed my name, loved my name, but now this is actually specific peculiar thing for me, something that people can find me by, and they will recognize me even though they might not be able to read it properly, but at least they will be able to find me. Thank you so much, Anna. I hope to talk to you soon again about new things that you can teach us about our immigration journey. That would be very useful for many, many people, I'm sure.
Thank you so much, Anna. Till next time.